Hey guys, former film student back with another episode of 31 Nights, 31 Frights, and on episode 23, we're going to a decade that I've mostly ignored for this series, the 2000s, with James Wan and Lee Whannell's Saw. So as I mentioned, Saw was directed by James Wan, as well as Wan serving as a writer alongside Lee Whannell, who also stars in the film as one of its leading characters. And everyone knows Saw. It's one of the most popular franchises of all time and has spawned several sequels and became one of the most iconic staples of horror. But back in 2003, it was just a low budget, minimal location passion project by some people who wanted to make a cheap film. I remember going over a friend's house when I was really young and he threw on one of the later Saw films. It was the first experience I ever really had with the franchise, and of course, the only thing I remember is the traps. But then when I hit my teenage years and my love for horror was setting in, I decided to finally binge the entire series. And to my surprise, the first Saw film really wasn't all that gory. That's all you hear about going into this film is that Saw is torture porn. It's filled with blood, guts, and more blood. But back in 2003, Wan and Whannell weren't interested in making a film that's sole purpose was to showcase cool traps that mutilated bodies in creative ways, but instead create an interesting psychological horror film paired with an intriguing murder mystery. Rewatching Saw for this video, I didn't like this film as much as I used to. I think the over-stylized and often hyper-edited sequences are somewhat nauseating. The cheesy and even sometimes bad acting was unintentionally funny and made it hard to take certain dramatic scenes seriously, but I was still impressed with how professional and clever the film was despite its low budget. Saw has a lot of issues as a film. There are some logical inconsistencies and plot conveniences that once you take more than a second to think about, really make the film come across as kind of dumb. And you might think, well, Jake, you just said the film was clever. How can it be dumb and clever at the same time? To that I say yes, while the film does have its dumb moments, and the more you think about certain scenes, the less sense they make, the concept of having such a low budget and minimal capabilities to film in several locations, and using that to trap two characters in a room together by chaining them to the wall and having this sort of puzzle game play out, is still pretty brilliant in my opinion. Upon my rewatch, I forgot how good of a job they do at building up Jigsaw as a killer, and although the flashback sequences can be very long-winded at times, I think James Wan and Whannell do a fantastic job of really giving the character a strong presence within the film, despite the audience not seeing him for a majority of the movie. My two biggest gripes with this film are obviously the editing, which I mentioned earlier. There are many scenes which throw a hailstorm of cuts and edits at you to give the film a visual style, but often just leave you nauseous. And the other is the endless amount of subplots. I appreciate the effort to give every character some sort of depth and personality, but the endless stream of backstories and subplots really caused the script to feel a bit muddled at times. All in all, I think there's a lot that Saw does wrong as a film, but there's an undeniable charm to it in the same way the original Evil Dead isn't all that amazing of a film, but it's the fact that a group of people with a shoestring budget were able to come together and make something that to this day is culturally iconic and still watched by many. I admire a lot of what James Wan and Lee Whannell were able to accomplish in this film, and it's still by far the best Saw film in the Saw franchise, as it's not just torture porn for teenage boys trying to show how edgy they are. Well, that's all I have to say about Saw. Let me know in the comments down below if you've seen this film and what your thoughts are on it. Do you love it? Do you hate it? I'd only really recommend this to serious fans of horror. I do enjoy this movie, but it's for ones who can enjoy many facets of what the genre has to offer. If you're not someone who's into horror, it's probably is not going to be for you. It's not going to convert you into being a fan of the genre. This isn't a great film and it has a lot of poor elements, but there's still a decent amount of fun to be had in this film. As always, if you liked the video, make sure to click the like button, subscribe to me. If you want to hear more from me, click the little bell notification so you do get notified when I post new videos. And I will see you guys on the next episode.